Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. On Saturday, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas called on the U.S. to halt Israel's attack on Rafah.
We hope that Israel stops doing this attack, and we call on the United States of America to ask Israel to not carry on this Rafah attack, because America is the only country able to prevent Israel from committing this crime.
Over the weekend, Israel repeatedly bombed areas of Rafah. In one attack, Israel killed 9 members of the same family, including a baby. On Friday, an Israeli airstrike on Gaza City killed the daughter and grandson of the prominent Palestinian poet Rafat al-Hariri, who was killed in an Israeli airstrike in December. Shaima Rafat al-Hariri died Friday, along with her husband and 2-month-old son. Shaima had recently written a message on Facebook addressed to her late father, writing, quote, "I have a beautiful news for you. I wish I could convey it to you while you are in front of me. I present to you your first grandchild. Do you know, my father, that you have become a grandfather? This is your grandson, Abdurrahman, whom I have long imagined you carrying, but I never imagined that I would lose you early, even before you see him," she wrote. The website Electronic Intifada reports Shaima Rafat al-Hariri and her family were killed while sheltering in the building of Global Communities, an international relief charity. Police across the United States made at least 275 arrests over the weekend as campus protests against Israel's assault on Gaza continue to spread. In Boston, police detained about 100 people after students set up a Palestine solidarity encampment on the campus of Northeastern University. The school justified the raid, citing what it called virulent anti-Semitic slurs after someone chanted, "Kill the Jews," at the encampment. But video and eyewitness testimony revealed the anti-Semitic chant was actually done by a counter-protester holding an Israeli flag. The group Huskies for a Free Palestine said, quote, "The only people hurling anti-Semitic slurs last night were Zionist counter-protesters attempting to instigate our peaceful encampment. Despite this, the university exploited this moment to lie about our encampment and justify the brutal arrest of over 100 students," they said. In St. Louis, police arrested more than 80 people at a pro-Palestine encampment at Washington University. The arrested included Green Party presidential candidate Jill Stein. At Arizona State University, police made around 70 arrests on Friday as they broke up an encampment on Alumni Lawn. At Indiana State University, state police arrested 33 people Friday as they broke up an encampment on the Bloomington campus. Despite the police crackdown, campus encampments continue to spread, including at CUNY, the City University of New York.
Fight on!
Today we have an encampment in City College, City University of New York, and we are demanding that CUNY divests and be transparent with the investment. And we are demanding that students, workers of CUNY cannot be harassed, cannot be doxxed for standing up for Palestine.
That's right.
On Saturday, protesters rallied outside the White House Correspondents Association dinner in Washington, D.C.
That's right.
Protesters staged a die-in to honor the more than 140 journalists killed in Gaza during Israel's assault. Protesters screamed, "Shame on you," as journalists dressed in black tie attire entered the Washington Hilton. Code Pink co-founder Medea Benjamin was violently thrown out of the hotel as she attempted to hold up a sign reading, 100 members of the press killed in Gaza.
That's right. Fight on!
Sitting here quietly with this sign and got so roughed up by the security and thrown out of the hotel. It's quite ironic because tonight was all about press freedom, and it seems like standing here with the sign is something that's a lot worse than 100 journalists in Gaza being killed.
During his remarks at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, President Biden made no mention of Gaza, but he repeatedly criticized Donald Trump, who he called Sleepy Don, after the former president repeatedly fell asleep during his criminal trial in New York.
Yeah, 'cause it was
The
boring.
U.S. State Department's decided against placing sanctions on the Israeli military, despite a finding that 3 Israeli units had
I'd rather
committed,
sleepy
quote,
rather
gross
creepy.
human rights violations, unquote,
rather sleepy
against
rather creepy.
Palestinians in the occupied West Bank prior to October 7th. Last week, there were press reports that the Biden administration was preparing to impose sanctions on Netze Yehuda, an ultra-Orthodox Jewish battalion, but the administration has since reversed course.
Good.
In other State Department news, Reuters is reporting some senior officials within the department have advised Secretary of State Blinken that Israel's not using U.S.-supplied weapons in accordance with international law. In a memo to Blinken, the officials cite the, quote, unconscionably high levels of civilian harm and Israel's, quote, killing humanitarian workers and journalists at an unprecedented rate, unquote.
Imagine that.
In related news, the New York Times reports the Israeli government fears the International Criminal Court may soon issue arrest warrants for senior Israeli officials, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, over the war on Gaza and for Israel's blocking of humanitarian aid. Hamas officials could also face ICC arrest warrants over the attack on October 7th. Meanwhile, Israeli authorities arrested 7 people, including a number of rabbis and Jewish American peace activists who tried to bring aid into Gaza on Friday. We'll speak with the Israeli-American author Ayelet Waldman and Rabbi Alyssa Wise. Both were arrested Friday on the Gaza border. Plans for a Freedom Flotilla to sail from Turkey to Gaza with 5,000 tons of life-saving aid have stalled after Guinea-Bissau decided to remove its flag from 2 of the vessels on the flotilla following pressure from Israel. We'll speak with an organizer of the flotilla after headlines. Ukrainian troops have begun retreating from several villages in eastern Ukraine as Russia intensifies its attacks while Ukraine waits for a new shipment of arms from the United States. Over the weekend, Russian forces reportedly captured 2 villages in the Donetsk region. Russia has also ramped up attacks on Ukraine's railroad station in an attempt to disrupt weapons supply routes. In political news, Arizona Republicans have named an accused fake elector for Donald Trump as a National Committee member for the Republican National Committee. Arizona State Senator Jake Hoffman was indicted last week with 17 others in the plot to overturn President Biden's 2020 win in Arizona.
Yeah, right.
The Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigations launched a probe into the recent death of Frank Tyson, a 53-year-old black man who died after police pinned him to the ground inside a bar. Body cam video shows Tyson repeatedly said, "I can't breathe," but officers ignored his pleas as he lost consciousness. The body cam video shows police waited 5 minutes to check for his pulse, then another 3 minutes before CPR was started. One officer is heard joking, saying, quote, "I've always wanted to be in a bar fight. I don't know if this counts," unquote. Frank Tyson died just 12 days after being released from 24 years in prison. In Colorado, former paramedic Jeremy Cooper has been sentenced to 4 years of probation with 14 months of work release after he was found guilty of criminally negligent homicide in the 2019 death of Elijah McClain, the 23-year-old black man who was walking home from the store when he was tackled by police, placed in a carotid hold, and later injected with ketamine. In March, another paramedic, Peter Kuchiniak, was sentenced to 5 years in prison for his role in McClain's death. And in Australia, thousands of people took to the streets in nationwide protests demanding an end to gender-based violence. The rallies come amidst a wave of violent crimes against women, including a mass stabbing in Sydney earlier this month, where 5 out of the 6 fatal victims were women. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese addressed the crowd, calling the situation a national crisis and an epidemic. This is Natalie, one of the demonstrators.
I think the government needs to declare this devastating thing that's happening to women as a national emergency. Enough women have died, 26, and it's really, really upsetting. I think we're human. We shouldn't be getting killed.
And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. As the official death toll in Gaza nears 35,000, Ceasefire talks are continuing this week with Hamas officials in Cairo, Egypt, and U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Saudi Arabia before he heads to Jordan and Israel.
Wow.
Meanwhile, Israel's military's chief of staff has approved the continuation of war, and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has refused to call off the expected ground invasion of Rafah. This comes as the International Criminal Court could reportedly issue arrest warrants for senior Israeli officials, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, over the war on Gaza and for Israel's blocking of humanitarian aid. Israel's also targeted humanitarian workers in deadly attacks. Hundreds of aid workers have been killed by Israel since October 7th, including 7 members of the international organization World Central Kitchen, which is resuming food distribution in Gaza today, nearly 4 weeks after its convoy came under attack. Amidst the mounting humanitarian disaster in Gaza, hundreds of activists aboard the Freedom Flotilla were blocked in Turkey Saturday as they attempted to set sail for the besieged Palestinian territory. Organizers say Guinea-Bissau withdrew its flagships under pressure from Israel but vowed to overcome this latest challenge. A group of UN experts called for safe passage of the vessels, writing, quote, "The flotilla is a material manifestation of international support for the ongoing Palestinian struggle for freedom and self-determination and the internationally recognized right to receive humanitarian aid without interference or hindrance. Support for the Palestinian people's human rights is acute under the current conditions of genocide, domicide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity."
That's true.
For more, we're joined in Istanbul by Huwaida Araf, Palestinian-American human rights attorney, organizer with the Gaza Freedom Flotilla. She was also part of the 2010 Gaza Freedom Flotilla, which Israel attacked, killing 10 activists on the Mavi Marmara. Welcome to Democracy Now! Again, Huwaida. If you can talk about what this Freedom Flotilla is and the obstacles it has faced leaving Turkey.
This motherfucker is an invader.
Thank you. It's good to be
In
with you,
African
Amy. The
ancestors'
Freedom
land.
Flotilla is a
What
continuation
gives them the right to
of
hold on to
the
that? That
effort
don't belong
of
to the
the Freedom
Turks.
Flotilla
And it don't
Coalition
belong to the
to
Zionists.
confront and
It don't
challenge
belong to
and indeed
Netanyahu.
break
And it
Israel's
don't belong to none of
unlawful
that's
siege
African
on
black
Gaza.
people.
It has
White
been in
people
place since
understand that.
2007. It is a form of collective
That's
punishment,
like the
which is
land
not
belongs
only
to
unlawful,
you.
it is a war crime,
let the
and
sun
yet our
remove you
governments
from
have
them,
not
though.
been doing anything about it. And in fact, the very fact that for decades, our governments have been allowing Israel impunity is what has brought us to this point where Israel for 7 months can commit live stream genocide and the world doesn't, the world meaning our governments, of course, people are mobilizing, but we're not stopping it because Israel is so used to this
He down there
impunity.
preaching we are biblical people.
We come together, the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, and announced that we are going to sail an emergency flotilla in light of the dire situation in Gaza, which includes mass starvation and now famine that has set in. Again, war crimes, but our governments aren't doing anything about it.
Because
They do
it's
pay
an
lip service to
invasion
Palestinian human rights.
to
Airdrop
control
food,
the
or talk about a
region
maritime corridor
by
which
the
leaves Israel in control
demon
of what,
Democrats
if any,
and
aid at all
bullshitting
gives for people trying to
Republicans.
survive a genocide. It's absolutely
Who are
obnoxious.
demon
And one
Democrats
of the
in
things that
disguise?
the UN Special Rapporteurs that you mentioned in their statement said that our Freedom Flotilla is legitimately challenging Israel's control over the entry of aid, which no government is doing, and that's what needs to be done. How can we be in the state where
Spreading
a
democracy.
country that has been found to be
Spreading
plausibly
democracy.
committing a genocide by the world court is allowed to control
Spreading
what, if any,
democracy
aid gets
means
for people trying to
genocide.
survive a genocide? It is unconscionable. And so we have come together. We are now and have been in Istanbul, Turkey. We have ships ready to go. We have one cargo ship loaded with over 5,000 tons of humanitarian aid, largely food, clean water, medicines, baby formula, nutrition for children, diapers. That was all ready to go. Hundreds of activists
this a
in 40
war
countries
against
were here
Hamas?
knowing that
Or
Israel
war
has
against
killed
innocent
activists before
people?
in such a
It's
mission,
what we must
and yet
ask
still
now.
willing to risk
It's
it
what we must
to do
ask
what no
now.
government has done, and yet
This must
instead of
come
our
to an
governments
end.
supporting our efforts,
The aid
they have
must reach
conspired
the
to actually
people.
block us. And so what happened
Netanyahu
on Friday
is
is we
guilty
received a
of
surprise
murder
communique
against
from
humanity
the Guinea-Bissau
and
International
must be
Ship
removed.
Registry saying that they have withdrawn
So
their flag
is Joe
from two
creepy
of our
ass.
ships, the cargo ship and the main
Dickhead.
passenger vessel. We
Jackass.
cannot sail without a
Creepy
flag.
Joe Biden.
It was
They
clear
are evil
us
to the
that
core.
the withdrawal of this flag was
Along with
under
Nancy
pressure,
Pelosi.
likely from the United States and Israel, because the way that they communicated to us
the
was
Dutch
highly
too.
unusual, if not unprecedented.
Anthony
In their
Blinken
communication to us,
and a
they
whole
specifically
lot
referenced
more.
our trip to
They
Gaza,
must
and they had
be
demanded from
removed.
us a number of things which
Stop
were impossible to
voting
meet
for
in the
them.
2-hour time frame that
If
they
they're
gave us,
involved
which
in any
some of
shape
those
or
things
form with the
included a
Zionists,
complete manifesto
do
of our
not
cargo,
vote
all
for
of the ports we
them.
were going to sail in, a letter from the
Remove
receiving
them.
port where we were going to arrive saying that our arrival and carry of
Nancy Pelosi should not have been
humanitarian aid
there.
is welcome. They
That
gave us
law.
a 2-hour window. This is never
To
done. It's
cause
like
a catastrophe.
when you go to register your car, at the
And I'm gonna teach my
DMV, they
child
don't
this
ask you
garbage.
everywhere you're going and
Talking
who is
about
going to be in your
Israel.
car. I don't know of a
I'm not
situation where this has
teaching my
been done
kid
before, and
that
yet because we did not meet these
bullshit
and were not able to submit all of this information within a 2-hour window, they informed us that our flag has been withdrawn. This is not the end.
What
We are
made you
pursuing
believe
this
that
legally
Israel
and
put-
politically?
What made you believe that Israel had put pressure on Guinea-Bissau to remove its flags?
Again, because the demands that they made of us, specifically referencing our planned trip to confront Israel's siege and our intent to arrive in Gaza, and giving us a 2-hour window to submit all of this documentation
Imagine
about our
that.
journey, and knowing that Israel has done this before. It has tried
Yes,
all kinds
it
of
has.
methods in order to
This is
sabotage our mission.
point
It has
blank.
sabotaged our boats before.
Motherfucker.
It has attempted to get various and succeeded in getting
Bullshit.
various
Fight
countries
on.
to block
Fight
us
on.
from leaving
not
port. And
nobody
it
back
was
down.
being reported
No
that
college student.
the United States
No,
specifically
nobody
was
backs
putting
down.
pressure
The whole
on
world is
Turkey,
coming
the
for
government
nothing.
here to block us from moving. But
Jackass
we
neck.
were sure we were
He
going to be able
must
to leave
be
from Turkey because
removed.
the support here is so great. So Israel has tried all of these efforts. It actually boasts
And the
about these
occupation
efforts.
of Israel
But if
must
Israel
move
thinks that
out
this
of
is
my
the end of our
ancestors'
effort to
land,
break the unlawful
Egypt.
siege of Gaza, they are sadly mistaken. A lot of the
The
activists
land
who
of
are
my
here are
ancestors
fired
is
up. They are
being
determined.
invaded
They
by
are going
invaders
back home at this point so we can reflag our ships, which hopefully will be in the coming weeks, and coming back with even more
devil
people
worship,
and more determination. So this is a
satanic
minor setback, but it's certainly
its
not the
core.
end, and we will not. We will
Araf,
not stop in our efforts to break this siege and
If
get
you
to the
can
people
tell
of
us
Gaza.
who the activists are, the doctors, the nurses, the
Imagine that.
lawyers who are on board this ship.
I
They're
would
killing
love to.
health
They're
workers.
amazing people from all over the world who have left their families, who have left their jobs, who have left the comforts of their own home to undertake a mission where we could not guarantee their safety. So we've had doctors coming from as far as New Zealand. We've had activists from South Africa. We've had truck drivers from Ireland. We have mental health and social workers from the United States, students, professors, retired U.S. military,
Glory.
retired U.S.
Glory,
active
sister.
combat,
Preach.
former
Tell us the
FBI
names
agents.
of these
We
heroes.
had,
Tell us the
parliamentarians, the former
these
mayor
great
of
heroes.
Barcelona, European parliamentarians, Algerian and Jordanian parliamentarians, really a cross-section of humanity that is sick and tired of
And
our
Anubis.
government allowing
Oh,
the ongoing
Anubis.
persecution and now
Guide
genocide
them,
of
protect them.
Palestinian people.
Oh, great
And
mother.
we are determined to stop this by
Yes.
direct action, which is, of course, goes along with all of
Imagine
the other
this.
efforts that have been taking place
Imagine
all
this,
around the world.
that
And
they're
we also
doing
want to
this
send our
and getting
respect,
away
admiration, and
this type
solidarity
of
with the
murder
student movement across the
before
United
our
States and now
eyes.
spreading across
Can
the
you
world.
believe
This
this?
is what's needed. We are going to bring about the
Africa
change. Our
must
government
be
has sadly
liberated
failed. They only pay lip
in
service to
all
democracy,
ways.
freedom, and human rights.
Among the
people are going to
high-profile
force it.
activists that are part of the Freedom Flotilla is
I call
Nkosi
on my
Mandela
great
Mandela,
ancestors
South African member
great
of
warriorship
Parliament
and
and
power
the grandson
to
of
give these
Nelson
people
Mandela. He spoke to
the
Al
power
Jazeera last
to
week.
fight on.
I'm a living example of the efforts of the international solidarity movement. I am free. South Africa is free. We were able to defeat apartheid South Africa because of the support that we had from the international community. And therefore, we want to thank them for taking this stand and for ensuring that they will not be complicit. They will no longer be silent. They will be the voice for the Palestinians.
Now, in the summer of 2010, the Israeli military attacked the Gaza Freedom Flotilla, killing 10 people, including American citizens. It was the Mavi Marmara that they attacked the ship. The Vice President, Joe Biden, defended the raid in an interview on PBS shortly afterward.
We're talking about black.
You can argue whether Israel should have dropped people onto that ship or not, but the truth of the matter is Israel has a right to know. They're at war with Hamas.
No, they're not.
Has a right to know whether or not arms are being smuggled in. And up to now, Charlie, what's happened? They've said, here we go. You're in the Mediterranean. This ship, if you divert slightly north, you can unload it, and we'll get the stuff into Gaza. So what's the big deal here?
The big
What's
deal is
the
you're
big
a
deal
lying
insisting it goes straight to
and
Gaza?
you're full of bullshit.
President Joe Biden
He's
in
lying.
2010
He wants to set
pointed
those
out
people
this
up
shows the
and
stakes.
divert
10
and be able to
people were
control the
killed,
aid
yet
from
you're
their
willing
position.
to go on
This
this
aid must
ship
come straight through the door.
try to challenge
Not in no
the
scheme
Gaza
or blockage.
blockade. As we wrap up,
Fight
you have 30
on.
seconds.
Fight on.
Talk about
Raise
this.
the fist. Raise the black fist, white fist, green fist,
Yeah,
purple
first of all, I need to say that Joe Biden is absolutely mistaken. Israel had no right to intercept and attack our ships because it has no right to place the Palestinian people under collective punishment.
That's right.
It is a war crime, and a UN panel, independent investigation, found the very same thing. Amy, it's a sad thing that it has to be a life or death situation to deliver food to people who are being deliberately starved.
Right.
But that is what we have here because
that's
our
what you have
governments
to do.
have continued
This
to
is what
allow
we
Israel
must
to do this.
This is point blank.
I left my 2 kids.
I'm telling you.
And I promised them that I would come back. I know they need their mother. And I hope to be able to fulfill my promise.
Their blood cries from the earth.
I didn't know. I don't
Their blood,
know.
we can hear the cries of these people.
I can't leave to them a world where this can happen, where people can be slaughtered for months on end, oppressed for years, and the world does nothing.
I'm talking about Hamas.
So my
Hamas, where is
and a lot of
Hamas?
the activists that have joined us, and the many more who want to
They're working for Netanyahu because you've never proven his claim.
That we have
where are the
to
bodies?
Change the world that we want to live in.
Did he
and
let his
we want
own
to
people
pass
be
on
murdered
generations
to his
come,
own
and we are
setup
willing
like they
to
did with
risk
the
our lives.
pandemic?
Sharaf, Palestinian-American human rights attorney, one of the organizers of the Gaza Freedom Flotilla, speaking to us from Istanbul, Turkey.